Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to the community call. Today's our 85th meeting, and if you can see my screen, these are the notes from last week and the people who joined from last week, the project board and the things we got done last week. So last week was a pretty short call. So sorry. So we talked about it was maybe a 20-minute meeting last week, and I sent out the meeting notes. And so I did get an update from, I was talking to Prince and the SONiC team around this item here, number 8, the clarification on service tunnel inbound processing. I'm going to go ahead and delete these PRs that I created and create issues instead so that we can more effectively add them to the documentation. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I saw that, sorry, Camille had a ping on 4:15 here this week. And so it looks like you're looking for an update on this one, Camille?
Yep.
Okay. And I think that, sorry guys, I'm having more trouble with my voice than I thought. I think we were wondering if Marian could maybe help with this one.
Hi, Christina. Yeah,
Hey,
I was on
good
a
morning.
sick leave last week, so I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
look into that.
sure. I
I'll
hear
do
you.
it this week.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. Does that work for you, Camille?
Yep, that's good.
Okay, great. And last week also, Usha went ahead and did a fix for this P4DPK, and then Andy made a comment here for, I think I want to just go ahead and keep this one open, Andy, if you're on the call. Maybe I don't see Andy. Macy, then I'll go ahead and keep this one open, but where we're tracking the P4DPK for Dash instead of opening something new. And it looks like we're going to use this tag dash blocker. And so what had happened here is I think that they were using a specific version where he was able to compile, and he moved to a newer version and was not able to. So then he went ahead and filed a new issue. So that's where this one seems to be at for P4 for DPDK. And so I guess I'll turn it over. Oh, and then Kumaresh did answer the question here on optional counters for Vincent, I believe. So I'm hoping this will be enough of an answer to close this one out.
Yeah, we can. I think
yeah?
we got enough info now.
Okay,
Thanks,
Vincent. Yeah, sorry guys about my voice. I didn't expect it to be this bad. So I'll go ahead and open it up and see if there are PRs or issues you guys want to talk about today.
Sorry, just open a couple of issues, mostly for we need clarification explanation on psi mandatory attributes, I suppose.
Okay.
And I can give some context there. Unless we got other things to talk about.
No, go for it.
So vnode from Keyside is putting a script together to verify the psi API and the attribute, the mandatory on create attribute, which is a good thing. That's why I noticed that our libsci was doing checks that it was not supposed to. But I went through our libsci and I noticed that I opened 2 issues. One, I mean, they're not issues, but they're things to check, I believe. So the one you're looking at right now is I noticed that the meter class is not mandatory on create, which is kind of odd to me. There were also some psi API J2 changes that VG made, but apparently that's not changing the behavior. So I'm just not sure what the logic is to set to for an attribute to be mandatory on create. I'm a little lost there. So I noticed this psi API meter flag, and I also noticed that the ACL for ternary key, ACL being one of the case, all the fields are mandatory, which is very odd because it's, ACL, you typically say, I only want to filter on source port. So I shouldn't have to, shouldn't have to push anything else for, any attributes for the other keys. Just a few things I think we need to look into because that's obviously not SI compliant, I guess.
Okay. So the first one, VJ is on the call. Maybe you could comment real quick, VJ.
Hey,
Hey.
yeah, I think this one, I didn't take a look at this because I wasn't, okay, I was tagged here. Okay, somehow I didn't take a look at this, but I did look at the other issue, the one where we have added in the SI API template file. We have added probably we can just talk about that issue first.
Yeah, I think we need to figure out how, and I thought it was the attribute that I mentioned, how the mandatory and create is pushed into the API. I just don't know.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I think that for during that in the metered PR, we had added one check for the key is attribute, but that one is deprecated. I just looked at the code again and I saw that there are no usages of that flag. So even after removing it, it didn't change the APIs that got generated. So that's pretty much a no-op. And I think you had another second part of that question about the check, the assert check that we had in libsci for BMV2. Yeah, we had to remove that because BMV2 was not honoring the optional attributes. I think it was always looking for all the attributes. And I think, yeah, I discussed with Chris at that point of time and we decided to just comment it out because that was more like a safety check that we had in libsci.
Okay, so does anybody know how the mandatory on create flag gets generated? Because it's not clear to me anymore. My thought on it, sorry, was just a quick note. My thought on it was that if an attribute is using a key of a table, that kind of makes it mandatory. But I don't know anymore.
Yeah, that's, I think, the basic rule that keys are mandatory, action parameters are optional. Not really optional, but they are required when a particular action is chosen. For instance, if a table has more than one action, there will be a condition that this attribute, which is the action parameter, is valid only when the corresponding action is chosen. But keys are mandatory.
Yeah, the one you mentioned on the action, that's typically not a mandatory on create. And I've seen the flag, like you mentioned, valid only if.
Yeah.
So.
But Marian, the keys are only mandatory if they are of exact match type, right? If like a ACL table and the ternary match keys, they're not mandatory.
They are actually in the script, which I don't think is proper. Sorry, in the template, I think. I think
so
the
what
SI
would be the
API
example of a key that can be skipped?
Like ACL table keys, right?
Right.
Those keys
Right.
are optional.
Right.
Any TCAM, any ternary match key is optional, right?
So that's in the SI API.j2 file, which sets that up. And I think there it says for ternary, it's mandatory and create. Maybe we just need to change that.
Yeah, but if it's ternary, it has a value in the mask. So to make it optional, you set the mask 0. That's how ternary works.
But agree, but you do not want to have the SI API let's say you only filter on source port, right? You don't want a SI API to just specify anything for IPs and all that, except to, I mean, those are lists actually in the case of ACL. I mean, it would be weird for the side to say, hey, I got a list of IP that is empty or a list of source IP. It's a lot of fields that are unnecessary provided as empty list.
Okay.
I mean, you're right with the mask, although the mask is more on the, yeah, I mean, it could be either way, I suppose, but I don't think they should be mandatory.
So the problem is with the lists, and it would be better to have a list if it's empty to not require this attribute at all.
Let me ask you this, and maybe somebody knows. When the SI APIs for ACL is called, what is the current orchestration? I mean, how does it know what to provide? And will it, if you only filter on source port, will it actually provide empty list or whatever for all the other fields?
I think so. Otherwise, metadata check will fail if those are mandatory.
So it's aware of the mandatory. I just don't know how that information is provided.
Yes, the orchestration agent will provide like a default values for all the fields.
Which would be an empty list.
Right. Or a mask of 0 or something.
So it depends on the type of the attribute.
I mean, we can, I think, make lists optional attributes, and default would be an empty list. Because other example would be an ENI and ACL, which shouldn't be optional. Or ACL group that this rule belongs to also shouldn't be optional.
No, ACL group aren't. Like the ACL group within an ENI, that's definitely optional.
No, I'm talking about ACL group in the rule. You need to create a rule within the context of a group.
Yeah, but
plus you need to.
It's not part of the key, right?
It is. It is.
So what's the question, Marian? I didn't get, like, the rule is bind to a group, right? So what is being told as optional here, or is it?
No, I'm saying that there is a difference between, let's say, a list of IPs that may be optional, which is fine if it's a list, and a group or ENI, which should be mandatory in the rule.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so my point is not all the keys should be optional. There is, I would say that by default, keys are mandatory. Maybe there are some exceptions for lists because empty list is equivalent to an optional attribute.
So I don't know if I'm capturing this accurately. Vincent, do you think this is answering the question?
I'm just reading.
Oh, sorry. So you're saying, Marian, it depends?
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, it's kind of similar. If we decide that they all are mandatory, okay, sure, it's, you know, we're gonna do more checks and all that. I just don't know that it makes sense, but it's not a big deal if they are, I suppose. It's kind of odd to me, that's all. But
Yeah,
like
I
you say,
think the
Marian, it will simplify the logic, because if you're a key, you're mandatory. That's it, right?
Right. The easiest thing to say that all keys are mandatory, but then you're right. You'll have to pass like empty lists to be compliant and all that.
Okay.
But Marian, like if the key is ternary, right, then it's not a mandatory.
Okay, key has a different. Ternary key has a different attribute structure. It's two attributes: key itself and the mask. So if you want to skip it, you just pass a mask of 0, which is different behavior from lists, where there is only one attribute that can be empty, which I would agree if you want to, it's possible to make it optional.
Yeah.
Basically.
So
in this case, like a control plane has to by default set the attribute and the mask as 0 for ternary. Right? Maybe we should keep it optional.
Keep what optional? All keys?
At least the ternary.
The ternary, okay.
But do we have ternary keys? This is the problem. I hear you with the list. I don't know why ternary is of concern.
No, so I was mentioning ACL, but ACL is actually not ternary, and ACL is a little bit of a. It's kind of weird because, well, they define as ternary, but actually only some of the fields are. Sorry. Like the tag mask, so the tag and the tag mask, but we don't really care for that.
Tags are removed.
Right. So everything else is just, at least the way I'm compiling, is just match on a bunch of lists. There's no actually ternary aspect to that. Yeah, they're mandatory though because they're keys. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, I think that's fine. If that's the logic, it simplifies everything. Marian, I agree. That kind of makes sense.
Thanks, Vincent, for bringing that up. And BJ, you'll take a quick look at this one, 441.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll respond on the issue. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Did you have one more here, Vincent?
No, that one can be closed. That's fine.
Oh, close this one? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, VJ, for responding.
Okay. Sure. Thank you so much. Awesome. So I guess I'll go around for everybody else then on the call. Do you guys have other PRs or issues you want to talk about this week? I'm sorry, my voice is kind of failing me this week. But Camille, do you have anything, or the SONiC team, or any of my guests here?
No, I don't have anything from me.
Okay, I just want to remind everyone that I think OCP is coming in October, and in the Smart Switch Linux Foundation working group that happened last Thursday. Sorry, there was a presentation from Alibaba that was interesting to listen to. I listened to it last night, and I'm attending a conference next week, but I think Yusuf and Chris will go ahead and lead this meeting for me. So that'll be happening. And anyway, during the week, if you have anything you need to ping me about, you'll have my email address and everything. So unless you have anything else, I can give you time back today. Okay, good. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, sorry about my voice.
Thanks.